All right, there we go. So officially, good morning, everyone, and good morning to anyone who jumps in on the recording as opposed to joining us live. Just wanted to be sure to say hello to everyone. And thank you all. I'm so grateful for you joining me in this conversation, and I am treating it just like a conversation. We're going to just talk this morning about things holiday and how stressful it can be, and hopefully come away with a few tips that maybe you will be helped with. So first of all, for those of you who signed up and don't know me, I'm Laura Sliger, and together with my husband, Dwayne, we started Trifecta Wellbeing in 2020. And we're certified health coaches, and we help individuals just making lifestyle changes. It is our mission that we know that God created us to have a purpose, and we can't live out our purpose fully, I don't believe, unless we are feeling our best and unless we can focus outside of us. But when we're not feeling good, when we're stressed, when we're having chronic disease, all the things, we can't fully live out that purpose. So that's kind of why we decided to go into this, and we approach it from the trifecta of body, mind, and soul, because we believe that all those things need to work together in order to fully be who we are. So I just kind of wanted to let you know what to expect with this workshop. You can expect to understand what makes the holidays so stressful. I think we all have a pretty good idea of that, right? But we'll just talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about how to make a plan for holiday organization to minimize some of that stress. And then also how to take care of yourself during the holidays, including some tips and strategies for keeping on track. Because I'm going to make the assumption that you are here because health is a priority for you. And we know that during the holidays, it can be a struggle to maintain those strategies and maintain those routines that you've been doing throughout the year in order to reach your goals and what you value. So we'll just get started here. But first, I just want you to hear my heart. These things that I'm going to share with you this morning, some of them are common sense. Some of them are things that we know, but we just need to be reminded of. And some of them are going to be things that apply to you, and maybe some of them don't. So it is my heart that you just hear and take what applies to you, and you can leave the rest behind. So first of all, how the holidays can bring on stress. One of the first things that brings about the stress in holidays is our expectations. We have really high expectations. We want everything to be absolutely perfect. We've had these holiday traditions since we were kids. In my family, it was the cutout sugar cookies. You had to roll them out, cut them out, ice them, sprinkle them, decorate them, all the things. We had a pickle ornament that went in the tree, and you had to hide it. And that was an extra gift that you had to think of for the kids to make sure that it was something that would apply to everybody. Just all the traditions. And can't help but think of some of my favorite movies, I think, illustrate this perfectly. One of my favorites is Christmas Vacation, and the other one is Christmas with the Cranks. Have you guys seen either of those?
Yes.
So Christmas Vacation is a perfect example of how we want to live out all those traditions, and then the family is coming in and you get to see all of the dysfunction as well. So Clark is trying to make everything perfect for everybody to have a perfect Christmas, and you have all the things just unraveling, and then you have all of the family dysfunction. I think it is a perfect example of how stressed we can get. And if you're familiar with Christmas with the Cranks, it also shows how we can get so caught up in those traditions. If you're not familiar with this story, there is a daughter that goes away and she comes home at the last minute. She announces that she's coming home. But in the meantime, while she was away, her parents had decided that they were so sad they didn't want to celebrate Christmas. And so at the last minute, basically, I think it was Christmas Eve morning, they decide that she decides that she's coming home and she wants all the traditions. And so they just literally break their necks trying to accommodate her. And of course, Hollywood style, they pull it off at the end, but that's not the way it is in real life. So that's one of the reasons that we, have so much stress in the holidays, is because we have these high expectations. Another thing that we do is we try to please others. We want to make everybody happy, whether it is trying to do all of the things, or whether it's trying to provide with gifts that maybe we can't afford, or anything like that. It's trying to please others to the extent that it causes stress for us. We also overbook ourselves. We want to do all the things, or we feel obligated to do all of the things. Sometimes they might not even be things that we necessarily want to do, but we feel that obligation, and we don't limit our yeses when we let other people's agendas override our own. And so that adds to our stress. And then we also approach the holidays without a plan. I was curious when I was preparing for this workshop, and in a couple of groups that I'm in, I put out a poll and I asked simply two questions. How do you approach the holidays? Do you have a plan, or do you basically fly by the seat of your pants? And I was actually surprised that about 60% of the people said that they really didn't have a plan. They flew by the seat of their pants. And now, some of these groups, I'm going to say this, some of these groups had men in them. So, we know how men are. They're Christmas Eve, they're like out shopping, right? So take that into consideration. But, a lot of people just are winging it throughout the whole holiday season, and that can create some extra stress for us, and putting things off to the last minute. And lastly, holidays are not all those Hallmark moments. In the Hallmark movies, even though some things may not seem perfect, it all gets tied up with a bow, it seems like, in the end. But we know that that's not what it's like in real life. And holidays can highlight family dysfunction, and they can highlight our grief. Maybe, in the past year or years, someone is missing from your life and it makes us sad, or there's been a divorce, or there's been some type of family disagreement and you're separated for some reason. And even sometimes just nostalgia can really affect us at the holidays. So, they're a joyful time, but definitely addressing the fact that it can cause us some stress because it's not all perfect. So, all right, let's move on. That is how the stress can happen, right? And so let's move on to some tips and some strategies for how to deal with some of this. So, in step one, setting a holiday vision. So, let's talk about setting a vision for our 2022 holiday. And if you got your PDF package, you can use the journal page, but if not, I highly, highly suggest that you sit down this afternoon, even with a piece of paper, and decide how you would like this year to be different. Decide for yourself how you want to handle the holidays. Am I going to be passive and just let it all happen to me? Or am I going to be assertive and make a plan? So you get to decide how you're going to approach it. And so I would suggest that you write it down, because writing, actually physically writing out your vision, encodes it to your brain. And research has shown that you are 1.5 times, up to 1.5 times more successful with reaching your goals or your vision for yourself if you actually physically write it down. So that's kind of why I suggest that. So when you are writing, think about these questions. How do I want to show up for myself? How do I want to show up for others? And how do I want to be on January 1? My little puppy is crying down here, wanting to be in my lap. So if you hear that in the background, that's what that is. So step 2, after you've gotten your vision, is to make a strategic plan for all your holiday happenings. So a big picture plan for your holiday season. It takes a little bit of time on the front end, but it's going to pay off. So what you want to do, I personally, again, like to have a calendar in front of me, a big calendar that I can write on. But if you are an electronic calendar user, whatever is your means is quite all right. But getting all of your holiday events on the calendar, seeing them and evaluating them, what do I need to do? What do I need to attend? What parties am I going to? What events or parties am I holding myself? And just evaluating, is there anything I can say no to? Because again, we need to ask ourselves, how much am I causing or allowing stress to happen to me? And, really trying hard not to overbook yourself. And then especially noting, what events are you hosting for yourself, in your home, or whatever you have to be responsible for. So when you start looking at those events, and I'll give you an example. For my family, we always do a holiday hop, and we do like a old-fashioned progressive dinner at the beginning of December, and it's a lot of fun. But getting that figured out, we put the date on the calendar a couple months ago, and we've already been talking about who's going to handle what in each house. And so getting those events calendared, but then breaking them out. And so in that PDF package that I shared, and it doesn't matter whether you use that or anywhere else, I would just suggest that you start with your guest list, figure out who's coming, even if it's all family. For me, my family can be different for each event, but just getting it down, who's going to be there, so I have a number in my head for when I want to go shopping. It's faster than being in the middle of the store and starting to try to count out who's all going to be there. If I know that ahead of time, then I've got that down. And then breaking it out, all the things that have to be done before that party or event, breaking it down and out into chunks so that each week what you need to do, instead of trying to think each day, oh, what do I need to do? Or putting it all off to the last minute. So plan your menu. And as you're planning your menu, go ahead, get those recipes out or pull them up on your phone or whatever, and start making your grocery list. And when you have your grocery list ahead of time, you can start thinking about, what stores you need to go to, or where you need to place your online order and that kind of thing. So that kind of organization just really takes a little bit of time on the front end, but then helps you to manage your entire season. And asking yourself, who else can help? Who else can contribute to this meal or whatever you're doing to spread out the work, right? And then as far as gift giving, start thinking ahead, and instead of trying to keep it all in your head, again, get it out, on paper, or get it out on your phone, whatever you need. Make your shopping lists. And I personally keep a notebook, and I love this notebook because I have each year, I have a list of everybody that I have to shop for this year. And it has changed over the years. It's really interesting. It's fun when we have new family members added, a new spouse or a new baby or something like that. And so I write down, ideas or whatever I'm going to get them. And I have the previous year to look back, because I don't know if you are like me, but I can't remember from year to year, maybe what I got somebody the year before. And so I don't duplicate. I can look back from years past. And particularly lately, my kids have loved, because I've kept them for years. And it's funny to go back and look and see what they got, because I also kept in my notebook their lists for Santa. So it's been fun to go back and see what they asked for when they were 5 or 6 or 7. So, and then compare it to what they actually got. So anyway, just keeping a list of who you have to shop for. And also another list that's helpful is an online order tracker. It's so hard with our email when we get all of these, because the minute you place an order with any company, it seems like you're then going to get 100 emails from them. And it's hard to keep track of those orders. And I don't know about you, but for myself, I forget who I've ordered or what I've ordered. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, did I wonder if that order went through, or it never came, So keeping track of those things help us also reduce some stress in our life. And then when we have our big picture plan, then we can break it out into a weekly and a daily plan. So look at the overall calendar, and it helps you to stay out ahead, stay out a week at a time, or stay out daily. So I know what I'm going to need to do this week. I know what I'm going to need to do tomorrow, and break those all down into workable chunks for you. And then you also, when you know what needs to be done ahead of time, it helps you to be able to delegate. Maybe there's somebody else in your family that can help you, or maybe it's outside delegation. If you know that you're going to have a party and you know that you're not going to have time to clean your house. I know in the neighborhood that I live in, I see, especially this time of year, people request references for people that will come in and do a one-time house cleaning for them. So you can delegate some of those things to other people. And then ask yourself, what hacks can I use? Online shopping is a big one, and grocery pickup and Instacart. Maybe some of you use that all the time. I have to make myself do it, but mainly it's only successful for me, especially I know with Walmart, because you kind of have to have your pickup time out a day ahead of time, especially this time of year. So if I don't even know what I'm going to need ahead of time, if I haven't made that list, then I can't shop and then make that much faster. And so when I don't do it, I find that I'm in the store shopping, taking up much more time than if I had taken, 10 minutes to make my grocery order and put it in online, and then I could just pick up my groceries. So that's just a way that we can help ourselves with stress. Also, cooking our meals, cook once and eat twice. So whatever you're making, make enough for 2 nights or even more nights. So those are kind of ways that we can, help ourselves along the way, especially during this season. And so the more you have a plan, is what I'm trying to basically say, that the more you have a plan, the less stressed that you'll be. And when we're less stressed, we don't rely on, our crutches, maybe our bad habits. When we get stressed, our brain wants to go into autopilot. And what I mean by that is that our brains, the way they work is they want to help us out. And so when we're experiencing stress, our brain says, "Oh, I know what to do with that. We'll just go through the drive-through because that always works. We get through really fast," or, whatever. When we are stressed, we say, "Oh, just make this quick thing," but it might not be the healthiest thing for you. So your brain wants to go to your defaults to help you out. And then we get caught a lot of times in the vicious cycle of stress eating. And so we start getting stressed, our cortisol levels go up, and cortisol, unfortunately, causes cravings. And those cravings that we start having are for sugar and carbs and fats, which causes more stress to our system. It causes us not to be able to sleep well. And then we crash the next day because we're tired and we've spiked our sugar and insulin levels, and then we crash, and it creates just this vicious cycle. So the next step that I want to go over is making a strategic plan for just you. So remember your vision and remind yourself daily of your vision. And if you've written it down, get it out and read it. And one of the first things that I want you to remember is to follow the 80-20 rule when you have the holiday season approaching, and we are not going to go about it from an entirely restrictive model, because restriction, when it comes to food especially, will backfire on us. So I want you to approach it more from a way that you would perhaps look at parenting. Let's say that your child comes to you and wants Oreos. Well, you might say no, but then they might start pestering and wanting it and wanting it, and then you give in. Well, then when you give in, if you were to walk away, I'm pretty sure your child might eat as many as they want. And that's not going to be okay with you either. You're not going to have an all or nothing. You're not going to say absolutely no and then walk away and let them have just as many as they absolutely would want. So restriction, a lot of times for us, doesn't work out so well. So we want to acknowledge and allow ourselves to have the things we enjoy. We want to start cultivating a different, healthier relationship with food. And a lot of the people that we work with, a lot of clients and everything, struggle a little bit with emotional eating. And so that's kind of the avenue that I'm approaching this with. So if this is a struggle for you, then this is something that we want to work on, is creating a healthier mindset, a healthier relationship with food. So then that leads us to telling ourselves different stories, because it's not about rules and managing and things like that. What we want to start doing is telling ourselves a different story, because everything basically begins in the mind. So what you think becomes what you do. What you're telling yourself becomes what you do. So stop and think about what you really want, and that's what you need to start telling yourself. So, first of all, a different food story. And what do I mean by that? A different food story would be, stop telling yourself that I can't control myself around whatever your favorite thing is. Like, oh my goodness, as soon as I see, at Christmas time, all the Christmas cookies, I can't control myself. Or I always gain 10 pounds at the holidays. So why bother? And then you just pull out all the stops. Or stop telling yourself that you can't make these decisions, because you can make a decision and you are in control. So stop telling yourself that you're not. You don't have this zombie effect on you when you get around food. The cartoons, where the spiral eyes are going around, and that isn't exactly what happens to you. But we tell ourselves this. We tell ourselves, and our brain is listening. So we need to change that food story and tell ourselves, I can have this, and I can just have one, or I can just have two. I am not a zombie. So just telling ourselves a different food story, and knowing, and this was a big one for me. And when I started thinking about food and everything this way, it really helped. And knowing that food is always going to be there. Our favorite things are really always going to be there. So stop acting like this is the last time that you are ever going to be able to eat the chocolate cookie. Food is always going to be there. Even if it's your favorite Aunt Melba's, mashed potatoes or whatever, you can get the recipe from her and make them for yourself again. So you don't have to binge on it, acting like it's the last time you are ever going to be able to eat that. So that was a big one for me. And then just acknowledging that holidays do bring up a lot of emotions, but we don't have to use food to manage them. We can manage our emotions with other things. And one of the first ways to start managing our emotions is to acknowledge them, and don't numb them with food. Don't try to push them out. Go ahead and allow ourselves to feel them. Allow that sadness, allow that frustration, because here's the deal: emotions come and they go. They're like a wave, they don't stick around with us forever. And so acknowledging them, naming them, this is what I'm feeling, because I can control what I can identify. But if I'm trying to stuff those emotions by just distracting myself with food, then I'm not going to be able to, stick to my goals. And then it makes me feel bad, because when that emotion does pass and I realize that all I did was stuff my emotions with these foods, it brings on guilt and shame. And then we get caught right back into that cycle again. And just stopping for a minute and gaining awareness in the moment and asking yourself, I feel really sad or frustrated or overwhelmed right now, but is a carton of peppermint ice cream really going to make it better once I put my spoon down? Probably not, because again, you are going to get into that guilt and shame cycle and feel much worse afterwards than you had felt in the beginning if you would have allowed yourself to feel it and work through it. And so that is your food story. And then the other story that we want to tell ourselves differently is your time story. You don't have to think that you can't control your time, because you can. You do have control over how you spend your time. So telling ourselves, I don't have time to eat healthy. When you have a plan, you can work your plan and make it work. So stop telling yourself that you don't have time to eat healthy. Stop telling yourself that you don't have time to be organized, because you actually lose more time by not being organized. And also telling yourself that you don't have time for self-care. And I know that there's a wide range in our different seasons of life. I know that, as an older adult, I have a little more time on my hands than I did when I was a mom of 4 kids. And so I realize, and I definitely acknowledge that it can be different in different seasons of our life. But we all have, I think, 15 minutes that we can carve out of our day. Think about it. How much time are you on social media? How much time do you spend watching Netflix? I'm not saying that these things are bad at all, but I'm saying I wonder if you can substitute just 15 minutes each day to practice some self-care. So telling yourself a different time story. You do have time. I do have time. I just need to schedule it. So making your self-care and healthy eating and all these things a priority for you, but it takes some planning in advance, no doubt. So moving on to meal plans and swaps. So again, striving for that 80-20. And when I say 80-20, what I mean by that is 80% of the time sticking with trying to eat whole foods and sticking with things that you know that are going to make you feel good in your body. And then the 20% of the time, when you have parties or events or things like that, just again, trying to practice some moderation, but allowing yourself to go ahead and live life. Because that's the thing. We want to have a plan that is sustainable and that can become a lifestyle. And when we restrict too much, it's not sustainable. So the 80-20 plan, I believe personally, it works really well for me. But the thing is, it takes awareness, because it can be sneaky when we think that we are only indulging 20% of the time, but we have to think about all of the different things. So one of the things that can sneak in are drinks. And what I mean by drinks are the drinks from Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. A lot of times we think so much about food, but we don't necessarily think about the drinks, or perhaps the beer or wine at the end of the day to relax and wind down. We don't think about them being part of that 20%. And then, of course, at a party or something like that, the drinks also can add up really fast. So just keeping that in the back of your mind, in addition to your foods. And then plan easy meals during this time. We want to eat as many meals as possible at home, but make them easy. Make it easy on yourself. use your crock pot, make it your best friend. If you're a Pinterest user, you can go on Pinterest and find so many different crock pot meals or one pan, sheet pan meals. My favorite is sheet pan fajitas. And just planning these out ahead of time, plan out for an entire week what your meals are going to be. And I would suggest this is something that works great for us. We just put that meal plan for a week on repeat, especially during really busy seasons in our life. We just cycle them and it makes everything easy. You don't have to remake your grocery list. It's all done for you. So just put that plan on repeat and make your life easy. And then included in your materials for today, I made a healthy swaps recipe guide. And these recipes are not necessarily less calories because again, we are not manipulating food here. We are not using food in the sense of good foods and bad foods. These swaps that I suggested are for our friends who are perhaps have some gluten intolerance, or some of the foods that ingredients that we use actually increase bloating, they increase inflammation. I kind of explained all of it in the front of the guide. So wanting to swap out these ingredients will help you to overall make choices that are going to make you feel better. But again, awareness is key. Paying attention. How did I feel after I ate this versus how I felt after I ate this? And just starting to notice these things and then incorporating what you found out into making your food make you feel better, because nutrition is key to making us feel really good during the holidays or making us feel really not good at all. So again, prioritizing self-care, and some of the ways that it's important to do that is, first of all, prioritizing sleep. I cannot stress enough how important it is to make sure that you are getting 7.5 hours of sleep. I know at Christmas time, we want to stay up late and wrap presents or do all of the other things, and so our sleep goes out the window. But making it a priority to get 7.5 hours of sleep in a dark, cool room, that is going to set us up for the best sleep. And then stick to your healthy routines during this holiday season. It's easy to shove those aside in order to make room for all of the things that we want to attend and do and accomplish. But sticking to your healthy routines is going to set you up to have more energy and be able to show up for yourself during the holiday season. And keep yourself hydrated. Making sure that you are drinking enough water during the day is going to keep your energy levels up, and it's also going to help you sleep better at night. So stay hydrated. And also taking time out during the day and just sitting and being present and realizing what you're thankful for. If you are a journaler, journal these things out and just having gratitude, because again, gratitude improves our mood, it gives us energy, and it helps us to be more grounded. And then you would think of self-care as also me time, but me time is important too. And it seems obvious, to make me time, but especially as women, a lot of times during the holiday season, we push ourselves aside in order to do everything for everybody else. And we don't take time for ourselves in the sense that doing something that we enjoy, just for us, something that we just absolutely lights us up and brings us joy and time to relax. So just spending a little time each week, just focusing on what you want to do and trying to stay present in the moment. It's really hard. I struggle with this one a lot, but staying present instead of always my mind racing ahead, and thinking about, what needs to be done and all the things that are happening and going on is really hard. But then I'm not able to enjoy what's going on right in the present. So again, just trying to manage that and being in the present. So the next step in our plan is to plan for your holiday social life and all of the parties and events and how to just approach them and be able to stay true to our goals and values. And parties and events don't have to derail you. So the first thing that you want to do is to remind yourself of your vision. If you've written it down, write it down even on a smaller piece of paper if you need to, and put it in your purse before you go to a party and pull it out when you go to the bathroom. Remind yourself if you're starting to feel really weak. I mean, it may sound silly, but this can work. And then again, reminding yourself, how do I want to feel? How do I want to feel on January 1? And remind yourself that you have done things before and succeeded, and you can do this now. So just reminding yourself of those things. And then remembering that you are telling yourself a new food story. Food doesn't control you. And so you want to tell yourself that you can control your eating and that you can have something and you can have just one of something. And that it's not all or nothing. It's not trying to stay away from everything or going crazy and figuring I'm just going to gain that 10 pounds and have everything I want. And staying away from the buffet bar and not grazing. And instead, what I would suggest, a tip, and this one is another big one that really helps me, is to figure out what is my worth it foods? What do I want to really splurge and have? What's worth it to me? And it's probably not everything on the table. And it's probably not even 90% of what's on the table. There are certain things that I love, and those are the things I'm going to choose and have without guilt and eat. And they're my worth it foods. So just taking that into consideration when you approach food at a party or a holiday or even during the week. Is this really worth it to me? Because so many times we just mindlessly eat, especially when we're talking. So, are not paying attention. So making sure that we're just eating our worth it foods. And then also at a party, making sure that we stay hydrated, especially if you're drinking alcohol, because alcohol will dehydrate your body really fast. So we get in a cycle a lot of times, especially if we're eating salty foods. And so we're drinking alcohol, we're eating salty foods, and then we are not hydrating. So making sure that you are getting plenty of water and staying hydrated. And then also at a party, realizing that alcohol lowers your resolve. So if you're drinking at a party, the more you drink, the more likely it's going to be that your resolve is going to get lowered and then you are going to not be able to stick to your goals or your vision or what you value. So just keeping that in mind and limiting your alcohol in order to maintain your goals. And then another tip that I have is for you to wear something that you feel good in. And that may sound like a strange strategy for going to a party, but the thing is, when we're wearing something that we feel good in, instead of wearing something that you've always wore to all the holiday parties, but maybe it's gotten too tight, is that when we feel good about the way we look, how we're showing up, then we are feeling good inside and we're more energized and more willing to stick with our goals and values. But if we're not feeling confident, then that is going to more set us up for some self-sabotage. It's kind of like, what the hell? I might as well just eat it all because I don't feel good. And so making sure that you are feeling really confident by wearing something that you feel good in. And then the last tip I have for you in regards to going to parties and things like that is about the day after. So no matter what you did the evening before, whether you were able to totally follow your plan, and if you did, that's awesome. But if you didn't, then offer yourself some grace and realize today is a new day and I don't have to absolutely blow the rest of the holiday season or even the rest of the weekend just because at my holiday party, I didn't stick to my goals. And then the next day, you want to again hydrate, 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 and hydrate, and return to your healthy 80% plan. And I wanted to just real quick, I meant to include this in the recipe guide, but if you want to jot this down real quick, a detox, there's a lemon water elixir detox that you can drink in the morning when you first get up, and it will help you to detox from whatever you had the night before. And what you would want to put in this is 2 cups of warm water or room temperature water, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, a tablespoon of honey, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and that's kind of optional, but it really is good for detoxing, and a dash of cayenne pepper. And then you can also add a dash of cinnamon if you like. So just mixing that all together and drinking that in the morning, the next morning after a party will really, get your digestion moving and get all of the things that you may have had the night before that are not the best for you out of your body as quickly as possible. So that's kind of what you want to do the next day, and be sure to go back to your 80% eating. And then the last thing I kind of wanted to cover with you today is holidays can bring about just some really challenging situations with people and family conflict. It happens a lot at holidays. We love that song, Silent Night, and we all want a silent night and a holy night. But in that song, there is another line, and the line goes like this: all the hopes and all the fears are met in thee tonight. Well, we hope that our holidays are going to be all good, but we fear that it won't be, right? And we fear that it won't be because of whatever holiday situation is going on, family situation is going on in your family. And so if you think about a family as an emotional system, our families are emotional systems, and you think about it like a web. It's got all the different pieces. And from the distance, a web is beautiful, right? A spider web is beautiful. But we also know that spider webs are meant to trap, and they're sticky, and there's a lot of bad things that can go on in that web. And the thing is, with the family emotional system, the web of our family systems, it doesn't matter whether you haven't seen somebody for a year or if they are across the country. It doesn't matter. The web is still there. So keeping that in mind and thinking about your family and what roles everybody, we all fall into family roles. And a lot of times these roles are what gets us into some trouble. So what I mean by roles is there is the baby, perhaps you're the baby in the family, and that can go two ways. Either you're the baby and nobody thinks you know anything. And so everything that you say, everything that comes out of your mouth is discredited. Or perhaps, and I think a lot of us fall into this, especially us people pleasers and all of that, is we are the conflict resolvers in our family, and we get triangulated. And by what I mean by that is somebody has a conflict with someone else, and we're the one that is expected to be the go between, the mediator. We get sucked into it to help resolve the conflict. Or we are the placater. We're trying to make everybody happy. And in the end, we're the ones that are unhappy and stressed. Or there's the family scapegoat. Maybe you are the family scapegoat. It's always your fault. It's never anybody else's fault. Everybody is always blaming you for whatever. Maybe you're the one that wants to do something different from everybody else, and you're the scapegoat because you don't want to do it the way everybody else is doing it, or the black sheep of the family. You get the idea. Or how about the hero or the golden child? There's the family member that can't do any wrong. So maybe you're the black sheep, but then your sibling is the golden child and can't do anything wrong. So there's all these different roles. So just gaining some awareness and watching and seeing what roles there are in families. Another thing that can go wrong often in family parties and events at the holidays is there is a lot of alcohol use. And remembering that alcohol fuels conflict. We know this, right? It's nothing new. But when we are using alcohol to help ourselves at these parties or things like that, to minimize our stress, realizing that it lowers our ability to use our front brain, to respond with our front brain. So again, alcohol is an inhibitor, and so it's probably not going to help the situation in the long run. So just keeping that in back of your mind. And approaching things from what's inside of our control and what is outside of our control. So what's inside of your control is, first of all, you get to decide who you want to be around. You can choose not to attend an event, or let's say you are at a family party or something, and it doesn't have to be family. I mean, it definitely can be friends or whatever, but whatever the situation is, that there may be some conflict. As soon as somebody starts in on you, then you can always go to the next room. So knowing that you do have choices and you get to decide how you're going to respond. You get to decide. You do have control. You can decide whether you are going to engage in provocations, or again, you're going to move to the other room. So many times we don't take 5 and stop before we whip out that smart aleck answer, because we've just been attacked. And so, but taking time out and figuring out, is it worth a response? Do I need to even give what they're saying a response from me? Because oftentimes the best response is no response. So you get to decide and you get to choose whether you are going to really buy into what they're trying to hook you with. And you get to control your reactions, your thoughts, and your responses. And taking time, a lot of times we get triangulated even over the phone in holiday situations, and this person over here gets in a argument with this person over here, and the next thing you know, it's like everybody's phone is getting lit up and everything. You don't have to engage with that. So just knowing that you have a choice. It's probably not your job to resolve others' conflicts. It's their jobs. So realizing this really isn't my problem. So often we make things our problems that are not our own. They're really not. And we don't have to go in and rescue everybody. That one's hard for me. I'm an oldest child, and I think that probably has something to do with it, maybe not, but I definitely a lot of times want to be the mediator or want to help. And I've really had to figure out, is this really my own to do, or should these two people just be talking to each other and not me? And that's probably what it is. And most of the time in conflict, it's because somebody is not being honest. Somebody won't say what needs to be said. And so often just being vulnerable and not approaching it from a way that is hurtful, but just saying the truth in a very loving and vulnerable way is really going to move things further along in the reconciliation. But again, realizing what's yours and what is not yours to even be a part of. And then what's outside of your control, besides that, is that at the end of the day, we know we can't control other people. We can't control their thoughts. We can't control their actions. We can't control their words. We can't control them. All we can do is control what we are doing and how we are reacting. And the other thing, a lot of times that we can't control are the outcomes. We can do our best and we can take all the actions that we can take, but we actually don't necessarily have the ability to control whatever the outcome is. So stepping back and looking and saying, have I done all I can do? And if the answer is yes, then letting the outcome be the outcome. And we have to be okay with it. We don't have to be happy about it, but being okay, having that peace of knowing that we have done all that we can do. So outcomes are outside of our control beyond the fact of what we are trying to do, that we've done the best that we can. And so just acknowledging that, it's not all roses and happiness at Christmas, and we're just doing the best that we can. And holidays really can be a wonderful time of year. And having a plan to approach them, having a plan to approach all of the events, having a plan to approach how we're going to deal with difficult people, and having a plan of how we're going to take care of ourselves will definitely minimize the stress of our holidays and be able to set us up to have a very vibrant 2023. But the plan is to follow through. the thing is, we have to follow through. So I've just presented you basically with a buffet of ideas. And like I said in the beginning, pick what's going to be best for you, what's going to work for you. I know that not all of the things are doable for you, but just some of them. My prayer is that some of them will help you. So I just was wondering if anybody had any questions or comments, anything that you can add, would love to hear them.
That was just wonderful. It's very helpful,
Thank you.
especially the conflict and knowing that you don't have to jump right in and, think you can, don't stay in your own party.
Right, right. Stay in your own, yeah, right. And, sometime we'll have to do a workshop just on that because
That's
there's so
right.
much more to say, and it's, outside of the scope of this workshop, but yeah, I mean, it's a
Right.
big part of it.
That's a
Family
big
conflict.
part. It's wonderful.
Yeah, for me, it was the food issues and thinking ahead of what was the term that you used, a favorite food and
Oh, you're
deciding
worth it foods. Yes.
you're worth it food. Yes, yeah, and being okay with that was my choice, not just eat and then afterwards go, what did I just do?
Right.
I
Mhm.
struggle with that all the time.
Yeah. Yes, it's definitely can be a struggle, and it's a cycle that we can get into. So starting with awareness and knowing so that we can identify when we're doing it and stopping ourselves at that point.
Yeah,
Definitely.
thank you.
And knowing that it is okay to have some things that we love. It's definitely okay. We so often are really stuck in that bad and good foods. And there's no doubt that we know that some foods are healthier for us than others. It's a fact. But the thing is, we know that we have foods that we love. And even though they may not be the healthiest for us, we're not bad for eating them. And sometimes just giving ourselves a little bit of permission really frees us up to be able to make the choice to say no. It's the weirdest thing.
Right. Well, and also I was at a party last night, and um because I've been kind of dealing with some of this and trying to figure out how can I change my habits. I made the decision I'm going to eat this and this. And this morning, even it's like I'm so excited because you talked about the things that I did, and I was like, oh yes, I did it.
Oh,
This
yay.
morning I reviewed what did I do last night and how would I, like my slip up was when dessert time came. I said, okay, I'll have this, but not this. But then I let someone else do the serving, and I ate way too much of the choice that I did make. But I was like, okay, that's okay because I learned something.
Right,
So
exactly. And
going
course
forward,
correction. Course
yeah,
correction is great. Knowing next time, do you mind if I just, get my own
yeah,
or just, do you mind just half of that amount?
yeah,
That's what I do a lot. And also, if you're out somewhere, splitting things is
yeah,
just such a huge help because a lot of times there's things that I love to eat, but I know that I don't want to eat the whole thing. So finding someone to split with is a great solution for that.
that is a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So somebody had joined in on the chat and also said that what was helpful was limiting your yeses. So really just evaluating, all of the things that you have. We have so many things and they're all good, right? We want to do all of them, but limiting really knowing what is going to be practical for us and what is not. So yes, definitely.
Also, could you repeat the recipe that you gave us, the warm water and?
Oh yeah, definitely. So it is 2 cups of warm or room temperature water,
Mhm.
2 tablespoons of lemon juice, a tablespoon of honey, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and you can also add a dash of cayenne pepper and a dash of cinnamon.
Thank you. I am all about cinnamon all of a sudden. I want cinnamon in everything. I in my
Cinnamon
coffee and my,
is
yeah,
is very good for you. Yes.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
finding out. Yeah.
Yes, it is definitely good for you. Well, again, I am so appreciative of you all taking time out this Saturday morning and joining me. And for those of you who are watching the replay, I am grateful to have you also join in. And I wanted to also ask that you also follow us on social media. And I think the links are in all of the things that I've sent you. And they're also in the back of your guide. And then also reminding you that if you did want to purchase our PDFs, it's not too late to do that. Certainly not necessary, but if you feel like it would be helpful, they are printable, or you can also just fill them on. Once you've downloaded, you can use them online too. So just wanted to mention that it's not too late to do that. And again, just have a great holiday season and give me feedback, in Facebook or however, email me, whatever, and let me know when you're having successes, because I want to cheer you on. And if you are struggling, let me know. I want to come alongside you and help you. So just thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your Saturday.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, welcome.